My name is Bobbie Powell, Bobbie with an IE, and I live here in Okmulgee. Been in Okmulgee County for all of my life. I don't remember even having to go to the hospital, even really going to a doctor that much until I went to that hospital to have a baby. It was really scary for me to go to the hospital. It was on probably the second floor, but it was such a big open place. They didn't have any particular place like you'd have your own room to go through your labor pains and things like that. That was out in the open. That scared you. For you to be there hearing other people going through what they were going through and knew you were going to have to go through the same thing. But when it was all over, I had this beautiful baby girl. And I did get upset once because I told a neighbor in the next bed to me that I was going to name my baby a name. And she went in and had through her labor and had her baby and came back and told me what her baby's name was, and it was the name that I was going to name mine. Well, boy, was I upset with her. But I didn't have time to fight. I had to have my baby. But the other name, I only had two, and one was Sherry, and then the other one was Deborah Ann. So I like both of them. So I do have my Deborah Ann. My uncle was coming to pick me up, and then I'd go out there and watch to see when he was coming. The highway was there, but it wasn't as busy as it is now, So I'd walk out there, and it was different. It was a little calmer than being on the inside of the hospital, So the balcony was nice. I do know it wasn't a large place that they had for the kitchen. And they had people there that worked, for in different hours that you would go, and like they would serve maybe the other patients first, and then they would serve the mothers with their babies, and they had certain hours, while they bring your babies out to you and everything like that. I remember being in the hospital for 4 days because evidently I was a real tiny person, and I had tears. So I do remember, and stitches. So I do remember being in the hospital for that at the time, but I, for at least 4 days, and then I had to go home. But the other food was prepared there, and they served it, and this had different times that people would leave, but it would seem like people was coming in. I remember, and there was a couple of black men that was going to a party out in an area, and to this day I don't know what that area is, but they brought them back in. The police brought them back in. They'd had a turbo wreck going under the underpass, and they brought those men. I still remember the screams and the horribleness of that, hearing that all over that hospital, because we all could hear it. But the next day we found out that the guy had died, and I just thought it was something, because later on I found out it happened to be my neighbor's brother that was in that horrible wreck, that they had. That was quite a unique place for blacks, because they just had most people that always use midwives, they didn't have anywhere else to go. That's what when they had that hospital, it was just a unique situation that they had a hospital to go to.